Hey, this is the Stuff I Heard podcast, and I'm your host, Josh Peak. Let's put on the cans and get this thing started, shall we? Nothing like a fresh morning start. Hey, good morning, everybody. I say morning because it's my morning. This is Saturday morning, August the 17th, 2019. And I just woke up. I actually slept in. This is incredible. I feel like a new person. I feel like I've rested well. I feel like I'm revived. During the work week, I usually get 5.5 to 6 hours of sleep a night, and it's rough. I'm 45 now, so the older you get, the harder it is for you to get that amount of sleep and be okay the next day. And plus, working in this 90 to 100 degree heat every day is pretty taxing on your body, no matter how much water you drink or how healthy you think you eat. It's a bit rough. So last night, let's start off by saying Stuff I Heard, okay? This is Stuff I Heard podcast. Ooh, welcome to the show. If you haven't heard this before, this is where I talk about stuff I heard and stuff I've watched. So anyway, I was listening to Joe Rogan interview Jim Gaffigan. I guess they had a sit-down podcast this past week, and I had the opportunity to listen to them, and it was really good. It was fascinating. It was. I know a lot about Jim Gaffigan because of podcasting and because I've heard him on other podcasts. I know that he has 5 kids, that he's Catholic, he lives in New York. I saw him on Comedians in Cars Getting Coffee with Jerry Seinfeld. He talks about raising kids in New York and how convenient everything is, and that he likes the fact that his kids are getting raised with more diversity from where they live to the subway than most kids get in their entire life. It's a good introduction to the world, and he likes that. He likes that ability for them to grow in that environment. And he went on Joe Rogan's podcast, and it was good. It was a lot of fun listening to them bounce jokes off of each other. There was a thing where Jim was asking Joe about hunting, which is pretty interesting. Because in there, Jim just had joke upon joke, and so did Joe. It was really good. And then at a certain point, Jim started asking Joe a lot of questions. And it's rare that you get a host that comes in, or a guest that comes in and starts asking the host questions. And that's kind of what happened here. And Joe and Jim go way back, and they know each other well, and so it was an easy conversation. There's a lot of information to come out that I hadn't heard before. So it's a good podcast to listen to. But in there, they talked about Jim Gaffigan apparently has a new special that's on Amazon Prime. Now, this is different than when, what's his name? Brian Callen. Brian Callen came out with some specials a while back that wasn't going to be on Netflix, but it was available on Amazon and iTunes and so on and so forth, which means you had to pay for it to watch it, and I still haven't paid for it to watch it because let's face it, I'm cheap. No, the reality is I would pay for it to watch it, but there's so much other free stuff to watch, I don't feel the need to pay for it to watch it. Does that make any sense? I mean, I like Brian Callen, and now it's getting to the point where I can watch his stuff on YouTube because people pirate it and they put it on there. Not to take any money away from Brian. I think Brian is a very talented comedian, and I want to see him when he comes to this area, if he comes to this area. I want to support him. I think he's hilarious. But I'm also, it sounds weird to say I'm going to spend the money to go see him, which is probably $50, $60 for a ticket, and you got to spend the night in the hotel because it's usually not going to be in Florence, South Carolina, because nobody comes to Florence. But I'm going to, pay all this money to go see Brian. Yet I could just rent his special on Amazon for $2. That sounds stupid, right? Yeah, I totally get the hypocrisy. I do. I understand. But to me, it's more about the support of the comedian in person than it is watching their special. That being said, I do like it when they do specials. Again, I'm a huge Bert Kreischer fan. I think The Secret Time is one of the best specials I ever watched. I put it up there in my top 10. Everybody's got like a top 10 list. And by far, I think for me, Eddie Murphy's Delirious and Raw are in the top 5. So is Bill Cosby's himself. So is So is George Carlin's HBO special. One of the first ones he did, where at the very end he goes, "I'm going to list a bunch of words you can't say on TV," and he just lists off a whole bunch of stuff that's really vulgar and stuff. And he goes, "All these words you're not supposed to say on TV." It was hilarious. And hey, listen, I owe a lot of that to my stepdad growing up. He was a huge comedy fan, and he was like, this is cool that you're going to like this, and it was funny. I mean, he taught me what funny was. Robin Williams at the, I think it was at the Metropolitan Theater. Hilarious. There's been a lot of really good specials. What's his name? God, I'm having this early morning. You know what? I need some coffee. Hang on, let me get some coffee here. Where's my... there we go. That's better. Chris Rock's Bigger Blacker Tour. That was a great comedy show. There's been a lot of really great comedy shows that I've seen. And listen, Secret Time is in the top 10. Jim Gaffigan is a hilarious comedian. And I watched his show last night. It's not a top 10, but it's funny. It's really good. It's maybe top 20. Okay? It's good. It's real funny. But here's the side effect of my job is I get up at 3 a.m. to go to work. And when I start watching a comedy special at like 7:30 at night, I'm falling asleep watching it. It's just the reality of doing it. So I'm going to have to go back and watch the ending again because I fell asleep during the last 20 minutes. Sorry, Jim. It's no slap on your comedy. You're a funny guy. And I laughed out loud a lot in the living room. And my wife kept looking at me like, you're really into this, huh? And I was like, yeah, this is funny. So anyway, it's available free on Amazon Prime. If you've got Amazon Prime, listen, I know you got it so that you can save money on your shipping, but they have content that they put out. There's a lot of good shows. They have The Marvelous Miss Maisel, they have The Boys, they have all kinds of shows that are really good. They got movies on there. Catastrophe's good. Fleabag is great. But if you go up to the top and go to the left, there's that little spyglass looking thing for your search. And just start typing in the word Jim. And the second thing that comes up is Jim Gaffigan. You click down on it and there's several of his specials available that you can watch for free. It's just something that he's worked out with Amazon. He's like, you know what, I'm going to put it on there and we'll see what happens. And it doesn't come up as a like, how Netflix and Hulu have like a certain category for things that you like, and you may also like this. They didn't do that. And I don't know why. I don't know why Amazon hasn't thought about the fact of, let's build a category for comedy. Let's build a category for this. Especially since they're spending money on comedian specials. I also listened to Joe Rogan interview Alonzo Bodden this past week, and he has a special that's on Amazon. I haven't watched it either. And Alonzo's been in a lot of movies, and he does a lot of comedy. He's been on Bert's podcast a few times. I think their daughters play together. If I remember correctly, he read out loud for Bert's book. Bert has an audio book that's really good. It's hilarious. It's called Life of the Party. And Alonzo helps him do part of the reading because he doesn't want to say the N-word, but they're buddies, and he's telling a story about something that happened in the past, so Alonzo does it for him. It's kind of messed up, right? Listen, this is the day and age we live in where people are very offended. And Bert didn't want to say it on the thing. He's just telling a story about something he heard growing up and how it helped form his view. Anyway, Alonzo special, check it out. It's on there also. I'm going to watch it probably this evening. But listen, don't skip on Amazon creating content. Take a minute, go down the rabbit hole, and start looking at who's doing these shows. They are putting some money into these shows, and they should. Jeff Bezos is one of the richest people in the world. His company is worth ridiculous amounts of billions of dollars, and apparently they don't pay taxes. So if they're not using that to create, then what the heck are they doing it for? If anybody knows anybody working at Amazon, tell them to work on their interface so that when you go onto it, there's other categories like comedy. That would be really helpful, especially when they put out new content. It would be really good to know that they have new content out, not just promoting the shows that they have, but listen, have a thing that says, hey, if you like comedy, check this out. They're spending money on it. You would think that someone in this giant organization would go, hey, let's put this on the front page. You like comedy? Click here. I mean, just an idea. I know that this is a windfall for you guys because money-wise, I've heard that comedy specials are way cheaper than regular TV shows because there's no special effects. There's no, 10,000 employees to hire. You got a comedian, you got some people shooting, you got a director, a writer, and editors, some executive producers. That's it. Way cheaper. Way cheaper. And listen, you want eyeballs on the screen? That's what drives your revenue. You gotta promote. When I was a kid, I used to drive by this place that sold those. Yeah, you remember those signs that used to sit out front of businesses? They were black, but they had the neon letters that would fit into it. And it had a sign out front that said, a business with no sign is a sign of no business. And that's absolutely true. If you don't tell people that you're in business, they're not going to be where you're selling things. Okay? If you have a show and you're not telling people, hey, by the way, I have a show, you're missing out. You've just wasted money. You've just thrown it out the window. It'd be like, okay, let's go with the old analogy of build a better mousetrap. Let's say you built a better mousetrap, but you didn't tell anybody you had a better mousetrap. You just had them, like, just sitting to the side, and you're like, I got the best mousetrap. Did you tell anybody? Did you advertise? Did you put it for sale on Facebook? Did you put a link on your Instagram so they could swipe up and find your store? Did you do any of that? No? No. Well, have fun with that better mousetrap just sitting in your room because it's going to not sell. All I'm saying is, Amazon, get your crap together. You're doing a lot of things right. You're missing the boat on this. So anyway, good job, Jim Gaffigan. I'm going to check out Alonzo Bodden. Great interview with both of them with Joe Rogan. Really good. I mean, Joe's hitting his stride right now. He is in a groove of interviewing people. He and Alonzo talk a lot about cars and motorcycles and different things that are coming out and different things that they've had. And listen, I'm kind of a car guy and I dig it. I mean, I was into it. Speaking of cars, we're sort of in the market for a car. We I haven't talked about this much, and I've sort of been on rules not to talk about it, which I don't quite understand. But I'm going to be as political and two-dimensional as I can about this. My wife worked for a long time for a company years ago, and at a certain point, her company bought another company. And in that buyout, they realized they had way too many employees, and this was right during the time when fuel jumped up. I think it was 2007, 2008, somewhere in that range. Fuel prices jumped way up, and whatever they had anticipated to do with their employees had to be sped up. And they let a bunch of people go on a conference call. They basically made it impossible for them to do any work with their computers, and they had them call into an IT line, or so they thought. And when they called in, they said, if you're listening to this, then you're part of the group and you're no longer employed here. It's a real chicken shit kind of way to do things. But they basically fired a bunch of people on a phone call. And she was devastated, and she was like, oh no, what do we do? And back then, we had 3 kids living at home. We had a van payment. We had a minivan. We had a motorcycle payment. We had credit card debt. We had all kinds of issues going on where it was pretty tough. And luckily, I had a decent job that made decent money, and I went to my boss and I said, hey, listen, my wife just got laid off. Any extra work you can throw my way, please do. I need all of it. And he was like, okay. And so they threw extra work my way. And listen, God is good. God provided. And we made it through. And she found another job, and because she's in sales, she had to sign a non-compete clause for 6 months in order to get a severance package. And once that 6 months was up, she started working for another company in the same business. And she was able to go right back into her old customers and say, listen, these guys let me go. I'm with this new company. Everything's great. Let's do business. And they were like, great. We love you. It's good to see you. So thank God you're doing okay. We like you more than this other person that's been coming in. We're going to do business with you because we like you. One of the things that companies fail to realize is people build relationships, and that matters. They think that the bottom line is everything, which in this case it was both. She was able to go in with a better price and relationship. So she basically devastated her old company by walking in the door and taking all of their business, or as much business as possible. And she did that for another 9.5 years with this other company and enjoyed it. And one day, things changed. They apparently are going through some type of change, and no one's for sure why. No one's saying out loud why. Notice I'm not saying the name of any of these companies. I'm being pretty clever here, not saying that. But I kind of want to let you know what's going on because I've hinted around at it from time to time. But anyway, this company apparently is going through some changes, and they're letting some people go, and they decided to let some people go in this region in sales, and my wife was one of them, and she'd been with them 9.5 years. And again, it was devastating. It was a big heartache. But listen, between last time and this time, we had got on the Dave Ramsey plan. We paid off everything, including our vehicles and our credit cards, and the kids have grown up and moved out, and we're in a better position now. My job has changed. I make less money, but we're okay. Like we planned enough ahead that we're okay. So it's driven my wife a little bit crazy because she's like, geez, I'm getting older, and here I am getting ready to have a birthday. I'm going to be 55 soon, and I got 10 more years or so before I can retire, and I got to figure out what I'm going to do in these last 10 years. So it was one of those things that was like, it was a personal kind of thing because she was doing well with the company. She had just posted record growth and stuff like that. And I would have understood, we both would have understood if it was due to performance, but it wasn't. So both of these jobs, by the way, have come with company cars, and she's had to drive whatever they give her, and which is fine. I mean, they're decent cars. But now she's in the market for looking for a job, and there's a couple of companies that are interested, and they don't have company cars, but they do have a car allowance. So for the first time in 23 years, my wife gets to pick a vehicle she wants to drive, which is a really cool thing. Like, it's sort of an opportunity. She and I have talked about it. We've gone out and looked at vehicles. We haven't test drove anything. We're not quite there yet. We're waiting for a job to come along. And again, thankfully, my mom and stepdad have been very generous and allowed us to borrow an extra vehicle that they had. And that's been extremely helpful. We talked to them about the fact of, we can go out and buy a used vehicle if we need to get us through. But it would be silly if we did that and then she gets a job that has a car, and then we got to sell that car because there's no sense in us having an extra car just sitting around. And they were like, well, we happen to have a car just sitting around that you can borrow. We have no problem with you guys borrowing it. And I was like, really? Oh, yeah. So again, thanks to Mom and Dan, we're okay there. That's a huge help. And, she's got the opportunity now to go to work for a company, and they're making an offer Monday. So listen, today's Saturday, tomorrow Sunday, do your little prayer, say, hey, I really hope Dolores, gets what she deserves and everything works out for the peaks, because, we need every little bit of prayer we can get. But in the meanwhile, we're in the market for a vehicle and we're looking, and it's kind of fun looking. We haven't looked in a long time. I bought my truck back in 2013, and I sort of looked without her. She was like, listen, you're going to be one driving it, you decide. And I did a lot of test driving, and I spent weeks looking at vehicles and going back and driving them again to make sure it's what I like, and really being stern about, well, I like this, but I don't like this. And I made a list of things I liked about each one and didn't like about the others, and I didn't have a determination before I started the search. I literally just drove everything to see what I liked. Because at the end of the day, I wanted to find something that not only looked good, but felt good driving, and that had all the features that I wanted. So she gets to do that now, which is very cool, you know. But it also, I can't help but think of how difficult it is emotionally and everything to think, you know, crap, I'm at that point in my life where I should be, you know, hitting my stride with my work, and I got to start over again. You know what I mean? If you think about your career, you think, okay, you know, in my 20s, I'm learning. In my 30s, I'm still learning, but maybe I'm getting a little more seniority, and I'm getting a little more knowledge about everybody's job around me, and I can kind of learn and flex my muscles a little bit. And then in your 40s, you're like, okay, now we're hitting our stride, now we're going. And then in your 50s, you're like, you know, I know people who are in charge of things now, and I know, you know, how to motivate people the right way. I've learned a lot of tricks along the way. I've learned a lot of motivation things along the way. What you don't think is, oh, now I get to start over. Now, luckily, this is similar kind of work for a similar kind of company. So, you know, the transition isn't going to be that difficult, I don't think. I think for her it's going to be just a matter of time of getting used to going to a different place, wearing a different thing on her shirt, and, you know, addressing the different company. But I guarantee you her old company is not thinking, oh, this will work out fine. I guarantee you there's people at her company that even though they had to do this, they're secretly regretting it because they know that she's going to walk right back into those customers and say, hey, listen, this is what happened. I'm with a new company now. Let's talk. Because she has the relationship, and she knows the ins and outs of the business, and she knows what everybody's trying to sell and how they're selling it, and she knows what their faults are. She's like, listen, they do this well, but they don't do this well, and this is the part I can sell you on. She's very smart and very capable, and her memory is incredible. She has the ability to meet people and like know who they are from that point on. Like if she, hi, my name's Jim. Oh, hey Jim, nice to meet you. They can keep talking, and she can meet 12 other people. She'll bump into Jim like a week later at a Walmart or something and be like, hey Jim, I saw you at so-and-so, you know, y'all doing okay? I'm like, how do you do that? She's like, I don't know. Now me on the flip side, I could meet Jim one-on-one and be like, hey Jim, how you doing? He's like, good. And we start talking about something. And in the conversation, my brain goes, what was his name? He told me his name. Why can't I remember his name? What the hell's wrong with my memory? Something with a G? No, that's not it. Is it Steve? No. My brain just sort of loses people's names, and I don't know why. Sometimes when people tell me their names, I think in my head, as they're talking, I'm thinking, Jim, 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 Jim. Don't forget Jim. Jim, 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 Jim. Like, so then I can say his name back, and then hopefully I'll remember it. Sometimes that works. I don't know what it is with my memory. I just can't do that. But yet I can remember song lyrics from when I was a teenager, hitting play, rewind, and play and rewind, learning lyrics to stupid songs with my buddy Greg. I know those songs word for word. Why is that stuck in my memory, but I can't remember Jim's name when I meet him. Of course, Jim's a fictional character here. There's no actual Jim. Well, I mean Jim Gaffigan, but I've never met Jim Gaffigan. Anyway, beside the point. Alright, so let's talk about stuff I've watched, okay? I know this is stuff I heard, but this is stuff I watched too. I love the show Glow on Netflix. Glow, Glow. It stands for Gorgeous Ladies of Wrestling. This was a thing in the 80s. Wrestling was big when I was a kid. And I got to credit my cousins, Patrick and Joey. When my mom married Dave, we got introduced to his family, and his sister had two boys. They were about my age. One was a year older and one was a year younger. And Patrick and Joey become my new best friends by default because we were family and we always hung around each other, and I didn't know anybody else. But we would watch wrestling together. And I'd never watched wrestling before, but they were like, you gotta watch this is so cool. And we would watch it, and we'd practice the moves, and they had a trampoline, and we'd go over to their house, and we made We made the championship belts out of cardboard and aluminum foil, and we'd write on it, world champion, and we had to like ask people, how do you spell champion? Kind of stuff. And it's amazing we didn't get hurt more than we did. I don't remember broken bones, even though we did some really stupid stuff off the trampoline, and we had tag team matches, and good Lord, I know we got all kind of trampoline burn from sliding on the trampoline towards each other, and it was a ton of fun. It was fun to watch, it was fun to do. And then ladies wrestling started, Glow. They came on late at night, and it was sort of sexy, and yet still had wrestling. And we started to learn who the characters were, and we'd watch it, and I wasn't sure if I was turned on by it or just entertained by it, because they had interesting characters too, and it was fun to watch. They would advertise late at night, oh, we're moving to a different time slot. It's going to be even later, or even sexier, and you're like, oh, I can't stay up that late. I gotta go to school or whatever. And I sort of stopped watching it. I mean, it was sort of a short-lived thing for me to watch it, and then it was gone. Like I lost touch of where it was at, and we just didn't watch it anymore. But this show on Netflix just did its 3rd season, and it is a great show. The characters are incredible. Whoever wrote this, the team of writers that wrote this, listen, hats off to you. Y'all did a great job. Good storyline, good character development, good acting. Here you got actresses portraying roles of actresses who learn how to wrestle. And in the meanwhile, they really have to learn how to wrestle. They do some real moves that you're like, holy crap, I can't believe they pulled that off. So they have to be athletic enough and be able, it's hard enough to act like you're happy or sad in the situation, but then you gotta act and do this incredible feat of jumping off the top rope and flipping over and pinning somebody, and it's a lot of hard work. Listen, they deserve every accolade they can get. Mark Maron plays the director of the show, and he's a stand-up comedian, and he's been in rehab for years, but he plays a guy who's still doing drugs, and he plays like an old version of himself, basically, directing these ladies to do a show. It's great. Season 3 is great. It was 10 episodes. They're between 30 minutes and an hour long. There's no set plan to how long each episode is, but nobody cares. It's that good. Like you just. Every episode is like, wow, they did a great job. Wow, they did a great job. The characters I just can't say enough about the characters. They've done such a good job about you caring about each one of them in a way that you don't lose focus of the story of what they're doing. And every time one of the characters is going through something, you're in it. They all do such a great job. And I'm a fan of people who do a great job. So go check them out. Season 3 of Glow. It's fantastic. Okay? And I'm still watching comedians in cars getting coffee. I'm still trying to catch up. I watched the Eddie Murphy episode. That was pretty good. That was almost an hour long. And I'm still watching Handmaid's Tale. I'm on season 2. Listen, it got better. I know I was poo-pooing on it for the first 4 episodes of the first season. It continues to get better. Every episode I watch continues to get better. And there's characters on there that every time they're on the screen, you secretly say under your breath, ooh, I hate that guy, or I hate that girl, or God, It's a testimony to their acting. If they're on the screen and they make you feel anything, that means they've done a good job. So, I'm going to wrap this up. Hope everybody's doing well. Thanks for listening. And, don't forget to rate, review, subscribe, and share with your friends. And as always, cue the cow. Hope that was good, everybody. Y'all take care. Cue the cow.